after we take a look at the life and times of Shakin'Stevens.
But I first heard this on the radio by a DJ called Paul Raven, and I couldn't believe my ears. You know, really strong snares, like a stick hitting a cabbage, you know. Great phrasing he's got, and for me, this is the only version. Joe Turner, Shake, Rattle and Roll.
In the 1980s, Shakin'Stevens spent the equivalent of 5 years in the UK singles chart, had more hits in Britain than Michael Jackson, Duran Duran and Madonna, and reached the top 30 no less than 30 times. He entered the Guinness Book of Hit Singles and Albums, following the Beatles for the 1960s and Elton John for the 1970s, by becoming the biggest selling UK artist of a decade. And he's got the gold and platinum discs to prove it.
You don't make it like that no more.
I like it when I get keep it in the seafood store. I like it when I get keep it in the seafood store.
2, 1, 2. Is the mic as it was? Is the mic as it, because it seems to be quiet for some reason. I don't know why.
Shaky's back in the studio, recording a new album, 30 years on from his first number one. In 1981, it appeared as if Shaky had come from nowhere and become an overnight success. But when he hit the top spot in the UK singles chart for the first time, he was already 33 years of age, with a story to tell. Michael Barrett was born into the proud, close-knit suburban estate of Ely in Cardiff at a time when teenagers were lapping up skiffle and the great American 50s import rock and roll, and local venues were staging regular nights with live music as the main attraction.
You know, I sang at a very, very early age. I used to sing in the house. Well, we'd have records from, you know, basically from Bobby Darin, you know, Queen of the Hop, you know, Larry Williams and Little Richard and stuff like that, Jerry Lee, and great stuff, you know, fantastic. Okay, well, this is where I grew up at 36 Marcross Road. There, I think it was a different coloured door. No, it wasn't green.
May, a hospital cleaner, and Jack, a building site foreman, had 13 children, and Michael was the youngest. By the time he came into the world, one brother and one sister had passed away, and several others had already left home and started their own families. 6 children remained at Marcross Road.
With Michael, he always had this thing about him, didn't he? Like a cheeky little bugger, you know. But, well...
We seem to know more about music than other kids, you know. They just knew music from their time, so they... I suppose our time would be like the Beatles and stuff like that, but we knew further back and we liked music further back.
The old music
as well, see.
My father used to make us sing anyway, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did. You're not a Barrett if you don't sing, come on.
Even if you couldn't.
Even if you couldn't.
I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill.
Just coming up now is where the traffic goes across. That's Wilson Road. There's the top end of Wilson Road to the right. In fact, that's where Leslie and myself used to go up and get records. There was a record show up there The first record I bought was Blueberry Hill, Fats Domino.
It lingered until my dream came true.
One of the important live music landmarks on the local scene was the Church of the Resurrection, known locally as the Rezzers, where Michael would make some of his first stage appearances in a band called the Denims.
Yeah, it was a great sound in here. It was fantastic acoustics. We used to have a Cuyora soft drinks there and soft drinks over there, and it was just jam-packed in here, basically. Very sweaty. There was no lighting shows. It was just like very limited lights on stage, and no, they were good times. Well, I left school. The first band I was in was they were called Olympics. The reason we were called Olympics because the drummer had an Olympic drum kit, and we were just learning basically. And I started to learn guitar as well, and so forth. And I was mainly the singer, and then from there we did a few gigs. But then I was in a band called the Bandits, the Velvets. We used to wear red sashes with a V across here, and we did a few gigs like that, and then the Denims came along.
Well, when I first met him, obviously a little bit shy, but as soon as we, we got to know each other, he was quite an extrovert, especially when he'd had a few drinks and started playing, And I found him a really nice person. We seemed to be like two brothers together. We seemed to, just gel together.
It was the Catman's idea for Shaky to lose the guitar, which freed him to become a real frontman and work on his trademark moves. Now all that was needed was a new name for the band, and it was the memory of a childhood friend that would provide it.
Stephen Van der Walker, it was him that thought of the name Shakin'Stevens and the Sunsets, and when he was having his innings or whatever, with the bat and that, he used to say, ladies and gentlemen, Shakin'Stevens and the Sunsets,
The name impressed me, and that was a name that he came up with. I thought with his shambolic band, with his ludicrous equipment, and yet that name, I like it. I thought it's so out there, it's good. And I was impressed with Shaky. The thing is, a young kid, he's good looking, and he was singing 50s rock and roll, and he was singing it like 50s rock and roll.
Legs, the manager, Paul Barrett, eventually sort of got the backbeats in one by one to back Shaky. Basically, that was it. Yeah.
By 1968, Shaky was playing more and more shows around Cardiff and the Valleys, but still having to hold down a variety of day jobs.
I had many day jobs, from working in warehouses, stacking beer or, whatever, and I worked on the buildings and so forth. I was a milkman as well, for a short time, and I also, I was an upholsterer. I liked that job, it was a trade, and the great thing about it, though, is there was a radio there, so you had the radio playing while you worked. In this room is more stuff. It's where I keep my records and awards and posters and so forth. Yeah, that's quite a wild poster, isn't it? Shakin'Stevens and the Sunsets. I don't know if you can see that. And that's the, of course, it's the Silver Surfer. And it says on the bottom, Shakin'Stevens and the Sunsets, #1 band, New Musical Express, and that's April 1972. Yeah, we were a hard-working band, basically. We turned professional in '69. We gave up our day jobs, and we got on the road and a tin van, and off we went.
In the hot summer of that year, the manager saw an opportunity to break into the London circuit. In the back pages of the Melody Maker, a rock and roll fanatic was looking for bands to play his pub, a well-known hangout for die-hard musicians and dedicated music fans. With Shakin'Stevens and the Sunsets, he was not going to get the traditional song list, but something a little bit different.
We used to do a lot of obscure material, like, Johnny Burnett's The Train Kept a Rollin', Lonesome Train, Flying Saucers by Billy Riley, Cast Iron Arm, Peanuts Wilson, Little Queenie by Chuck Berry. That used to go down very, very well. A showstopper at the end, yeah. They were great days, they really were, it was a great place to play, good acoustics, lots of sweat on the walls, and people were thirsty, and we had a great night every time we came here, and we couldn't afford hotels then, there was a car park just there, and we used to go out there in our van at the end of the evening and just try and get comfortable somehow, and fall asleep, and wake up in the morning and on to the next public convenience, quick shave and wash up and on to the next gig and rock like hell.
How we really got out of South Wales was when John Lennon had played at the Toronto Peace Festival in 1969, and there's a lot of coverage. He did traditional rock and roll, and he wore a white suit, and I wrote to the Melody Makers a half joke, really, saying that
if John wants to come down to one of our gigs and sing a song or anticipate, but don't forget you must bring the suit. We really look forward to it.
Yeah, the Melody Maker played it up pretty big, and the next thing you know, the Rolling Stones office is in contact.
We were playing Cardiff University, and somebody came down and watched us play, and it was a good night. We were very pleased with the sound, and the audience loved it, and they said, yeah, we'll have them.
So it's straight from like Aberkenfig non-political, Beda Rugby Football Club, straight up there.
We travelled up in our van and so forth with our little amplifiers and unloaded the van and went in there, and I think Mick and the guys were making us feel at home because they were doing a kind of a rocking blues type song or whatever, and we got in there and we set up, and they had this massive PA.
Yeah, remember Shaky singing Mean Woman Blues, and he's doing his great bumps and grinds across the stage, and he gets to the piano where we have positioned a chair for him to step on and get on top of the piano and do the whole number, you see. And of course he gets his foot there, and there's not enough microphone lead. The stage is too big, much bigger than we're used to. He was, so for a few moments he sounded like that.
I think Shaky was aware that it was, we had gone up a big league from local band to sort of big potato sort of thing, and so things are good. Yeah, and I think he grew with the knowledge he had to grow,
We just played, with all of the played with Roxy Music,
Chuck Berry in Leeds, Locarno Ballroom,
David Bowie,
Mott the Hoople,
Free,
Marmalade,
Bill Haley in the Comments,
Sweet,
Georgie Fame, Alan Price,
all that sort of stuff,
We played with Wishbone Ash, The Pretty Things, loads and loads of people.
By 1972, the band began its first forays into Europe, at a time when they were getting a serious reputation for some very wild stage shows.
It was a band to listen to, but it was great. You could look at the band as well and get a lot of enjoyment from it as well. The sax player we had, he used to throw his sax up in the air and just catch it. I mean, if he dropped it, he wouldn't be playing sax for the rest of the night,
They were powerhouse, non-stop, everybody moving on the stage, Shaky jumping on top of the piano, great voice, he looked great.
The piano player used to go for it, and I used to stand on the piano, jump off the piano, and the piano player then used to pick up the bass player on his shoulders and so forth.
The bass player, like jumping off the stage, got a 50-foot lead, and the sax player's climbing up the scaffold and is still playing, and the the piano player seriously did somersaults. And the Shaky danced on the piano and Louis stand up playing the drums.
At the end of the night, you know, he'd normally climb on the piano as he's singing, you know, a whole lot of shaking going on. Come on over, baby, whole lot. And next minute, I thought, bloody hell, where's Shaky going? And up the curtains he went. Climbed the curtains right up to the ceiling. You know, he's got the mic in one hand. Shake it, baby, shake.
And I was climbing up this curtain and I was looking up. It was a bit like a cartoon, you know. I'd look up and you see these things going ping, ping, and I thought, I'm going to go down here. And I went crash on this piano, you know, and I heard something go, and I thought, whoops.
Between 1970 and 1976, Shakin'Stevens and the Sunsets released 6 albums, all of them failing to chart.
I'm sure Shaky always expected success, considered it his birthright. But to become the man he became, he needed his apprenticeship, he needed what he learned, he needed all that rehearsals, all those practices, all those hundreds of gigs that got him good, that taught him.
It appeared the big break had finally come when Track Records, the original home to The Who and the Jimi Hendrix Experience, signed Shaky as a solo artist in 1977. But the luck didn't last long. Track were to fold soon after his first solo album, Shakin'Stevens, was released in 1978. However, in the middle of all this, an opportunity would come knocking that would change Shaky's life forever.
Right, let's try again.
2, 3, 4.
In August 1977, the death of Elvis Presley shook the world of rock and roll. Legendary television producer and impresario Jack Good had already been working on an Elvis musical and was now looking for 3 singers to play the King in the different stages of his career.
We was on the last run of gigs of myself with the Sunsets, and one of the gigs we were playing was the Greyhound in Fulham, which a very prestigious gig. Jack Good came down, I watched and liked, and they offered me the part. Basically, he says, I think Jack said, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you've got it, you know, it's yours.
As soon as I saw him, I knew I wasn't going to get anything better.
He lays down beat like a ton of gold. He goes by the name of King Creole. You know it's gone, gone, gone.
He didn't want somebody coming on with some sort of sideburns and guitar and trying to do fake American. He wanted somebody who was going to excite like Elvis, to have genuine excitement, not a performance of waxworks, Madame Tussauds Elvis, you know.
Walked through the party in the county jail. Breathing never there, and again the way. Jumping, and the jump began to swing. Should have knocked that jailbird sing that rock.
I remember one Saturday night, he just sort of leapt off the stage onto the back, so people are sitting in their rows, and he'd leapt off onto the back of somebody's seat and walked about 3 rows out on the backs of the seats. You know, he could have fallen on anybody, you know, health and safety and all of that. He could have killed people there and then, you know, but there was a little bit of a rebel in him. But I mean, it was terrific stuff, you know. I mean, it was great theatre, you know, even though it was kind of outside the rules.
The show played to 8,000 people a week for nearly 2 years, winning the Evening Standard Award for Best Musical and a nomination for the Society of West End Theatre Awards.
Elvis. Oh man, the way the gravy so.
Clearly, he was hungry by then to use this as a platform to get elsewhere. And I can remember that I'd visit him in his dressing room, and he would be playing me his latest efforts at getting a hit record. You know, he'd say, "What about this one, Keith?"
Baby works in a hot dog stand, making them hot dogs fast you can. Hot the steps of cattle, now don't move slow. Get me 2 hot dogs ready to go. Hot dog, she's my baby. Hot dog, drives me crazy. Hot dog, darling, maybe you want to see my baby in a hot dog stand.
The success of the musical encouraged influential music industry executives like Muff Winwood to come and see Shaky in action. Muff, an original partner in Island Records and responsible for signing Sade and The Clash to the major CBS Epic label, signed Shaky in the late 1970s.
The thinking behind signing Shakin'Stevens was just purely that he was an extremely good artist. Regardless of the style of music that he did, he was just a great artist and did his music extremely well. The song choices were often sifted through by Shaky with his producer at the time, who also helped him a lot, Stuart Coleman.
We did a song called Hot Dog, which was a Buck Owens song in the 50s, and it had a very basic verse line, but the chorus was so anthemic. Hot dog, she's my baby, hot dog. Because Shaky just nailed it when we came to record.
Shaky had this other sense about certain songs that were very difficult for the rest of us to see. I mean, there are two classic examples here, I think, This Old House and Green Door, which were both songs that had been done to death as far as I was concerned and were kind of ordinary songs. But Shaky felt that he could give them something that they never had before.
Shaky's reworking of This Old House in 1981 topped the UK charts and became a huge international hit.
We were on big success then, you know, and the tours came fast and furious, here, there and everywhere, and it was big. It was massive, yeah.
With an extensive knowledge of music, years of touring with the Sunsets, and a successful run in a London West End theatre show behind him, Shaky was able to draw on a mix of very different experiences to take full advantage of his success.
He had all of this history, if you like, of rock and roll to choose from, and again, he chose correctly. He dressed himself in a way that worked for him and worked for the songs. But it was nearly always his vision of how he saw it, and it was a very focused vision.
Well, we all know what these are. This jacket's pretty beat up now, as you can see. You know, I think I've lost the sleeve there, no patches and things. The first time I wore these was in front of camera, was in Cambridge, where I did This Old House video. Nobody said, what are you going to wear? So I thought, well, if nobody will tell me, I'll just kind of pitch in there. So I thought I'll shove these on, and I did. And I don't think they quite fit me now, but there you go. It's memories.
Another testament to the level that Shaky reached was that he was the first person to notch up 50 performances on Top of the Pops. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Hello, we're the West Enders and welcome to another Top of the Pops. Rather special Top of the Pops, actually, because it's Shakin'Stevens' 50th birthday.
No, you got it wrong. It's his 50th appearance on Top of the Pops, and it's Shakin'Stevens.
Shakin'Stevens!
Shakin'Stevens! Shakin'Stevens!
Shakin'Stevens!
Shakin'Stevens! Shakin'Stevens!
Shaky!
Which means that Britain's #1 must be Shakin'Stevens for the third week behind the green door.
He sat well at Top of the Pops. They loved him. Very colourful, very fresh, upbeat, and a contrast to ballads and the yesterday's music, which was still flowing around.
Shaky, as far as I know, did somewhere between 50 and 60 Top of the Pops, which it's as a presenter, you'd sort of maybe expect to do that. As an artist, most extraordinary feat, really. But he was very acceptable. He's a great entertainer, great performer, always delivered, very professional. So they always knew they could count on him, and the record was probably going to go in the charts as well.
The success came quite quickly. I mean, when it came, and it came at a massive level. You know, I mean, here's a guy that was selling records, certainly singles,
all the way around the world. I mean, you know, this doesn't happen by chance. Pop was kind of going through a sort of massive renaissance, certainly in terms of the way that it was covered. There was loads and loads of magazines. And while Shaky didn't really sort of fit quite into that pattern of interviews, etc., we did a lot of photo sessions.
I never thought about, you know, being on people's bedroom walls and things, but I knew in my own heart of hearts that I dreamt that, and I wanted to make it in the music business, to perform. I never thought of this side of it at all.
The pressure was unbelievable. How he handled it without diving into a pool and never coming up again, I don't know. Because he probably had more pressure on him than any other act of the time, I would say.
What do you want to make those eyes as you are? Yeah, they tell me what they say.
You then get everybody and his dog telling you how wonderful you are, putting their arms around their shoulders and saying, you are great, I've loved you forever, and all that stuff. And there's nothing that you do that isn't brilliant. A lot of artists have difficulty dealing with it. You know, drugs can often alleviate the problem to them, and so can alcohol alleviate the problem to them. He took the alcohol route, and he went through 2 or 3 years where he was a bit difficult to deal with. But then, when you thought that here was a guy that was spiraling out of control, he stopped it. And I don't know how it happened, but golf suddenly took over.
Easy does it. Look at that. Oops, a little bit too much. Bit of body English.
One day, there was the President of the United States playing, all kinds of things. It was a massive do on this golf course right behind my shoulder. And then all of a sudden, I saw this incredible crowd of people. And I wandered towards it, and it was Shaky.
It's in the bunker at the 9th, and he's given it a dirty hit there. Will it get up there? Yes, it will. Good shot.
And he had around him hundreds of fans, and they were all wearing badges. And wherever they went, they were clinking and clanking. And I can always remember he was playing with a professional golfer who was complaining all the time that these people were making so much noise. And Shaky, every shot he made, you know, fantastic applause. But that changed his life, I think, and it turned him around fantastically well.
With a string of chart hits, live shows, television appearances, photo shoots and constant worldwide travel, life for Shaky in the 1980s became a blur. And as one of the UK's most successful recording artists, renewed interest in the records he'd made before he was famous was inevitable. On the back of his solo success, some of the records he'd made with the Sunsets were re-released.
What they reissued it, what, it's in the top 30 pop single charts. What an album, ours. Oh, great. Get the royalties. Where's the royalties? Where's the royalties?
I certainly didn't authorise the release, and it was released by EMI. I mean, I was dashing here, there and everywhere in the early 80s. Apart from recording, doing interviews and so forth, I was doing gigs throughout Europe, Australia, everywhere. And so I had no time for any of that. On my side, I think management and a lawyer was saying, well, somebody's getting money, you should have your share. And I think they set about getting my share. I strongly believe that the rest of it was all taken care of and everybody else was getting their share. But as time went on, many years went on, I found out that wasn't the case.
Shaky's lawyers attempted to settle over one of the albums, A Legend, before it got to court. But the Sunsets weren't happy with what was offered and wanted a judge to decide. The longtime friends now found themselves on opposite sides of a complicated dispute.
The band, who are all from Cardiff, claim they never received a penny in royalties on that re-release of the album. They're now suing Shaky and the record producer Dave Edmunds for breach of contract. The Sunsets want a share of royalties. Their former manager, Paul Barrett, is taking out a separate legal action against Dave Edmunds, the producer, on behalf of the Sunsets.
It took over a decade for the case to come to court. The judge ruled in the Sunsets' favour, and they were awarded compensation to reflect their loss of royalties.
At the end of the day, I mean, the court offered them less money than what I offered them.
In a mass of bootleg releases and royalty grievances, the division between Shakin'Stevens and the Sunsets has never been resolved. After the whirlwind of the 80s, the 1990s saw Shaky's UK career begin to slow down. His international success continued, however, with compilation albums hitting the top end of the charts in Norway and Denmark in 1999. The same year he took on a new manager, Sue Davis.
During the 90s, Shaky probably went a bit off the radar in the UK. He has been doing tours, but I think until you actually bring out a release and have that success again, then, you know, people do think that you're not doing anything. You're at home probably, you know, watching TV, I don't know, but not doing anything in the industry.
Shaky began the new century as determined as ever to continue his international and UK success. A UK compilation album went platinum. He topped the album charts in Scandinavia and made landmark live appearances in both the UK and Europe, including a show headlining to 100,000 on home soil in Wales to see in the new millennium. However, his professional resilience was severely tested during this time. It had been over 10 years since he'd last recorded a new album, and he wouldn't get the chance to do so again until 2006.
I was re-signed. Hello, guys. By this time with Rob Stringer.
Rob Stringer, one of the most powerful figures in the music business and head of Sony BMG, who had bought Shaky's old label, CBS Epic, was the perfect person to back Shaky's new album.
In a second, everything could change.
I was very, very pleased with the album, so was a lot of other people involved with it. It was a kind of a bridge, really, because I hadn't had an album out for quite a while, a new album. So it was the right move, you know, it was perfect. Much excitement. We were over the moon, we thought. Yes!
So if that's all it takes, we can learn from our mistakes.
For Shaky, the Now Listen album was an ideal opportunity to move into a new phase and leave the image of the 80s behind.
You know, the hits are the hits. Yeah, I'm proud of that time, you know. But it's, you know, if people look at YouTube and Top of the Pops, it's not like that anymore, you know, it's not. So we thought, Craigie, if we can get this record away, we can stop people thinking just this old house and those hits. It's more about the music.
Make your emotion, they shelter from the...
Despite the best of intentions, an unexpected twist would thwart Shaky's plans for the album.
What happened was that it was all systems go, and Rob was called to go to the States with his brother for a position out there. It was left with people to take care of the album, but nobody took care of the album at all. So yes, that was a low one for me.
Like a skittle, you knock him down, he gets up, and I think it comes from his family. I think they had a very hard time. You know, it was a very poor time for them. There was no money around, and I think, you know, he's just learnt from that, and he's got a spine of stainless steel in that way, I think, and he will just keep on doing what he wants to do.
Thanks to his loyal fans in the UK and Europe, Shaky bounced back, performing to 200,000 in Poland and to a record audience for an opening act on the Pyramid stage at Glastonbury in 2008. And as a symbol of his enduring popularity, he was invited to appear on the 2011 Christmas special of Strictly Come Dancing to perform his perennial hit, Merry Christmas Everyone. But in 2010, we nearly lost Shaky forever.
I was actually working in the garden and I was lifting these bags, you know, very heavy bags. So that was a very silly thing to do anyway. From there I went down and did some recording and had a very light dinner and came back, and I just didn't feel very well at all. And then I closed my eyes, and after that I don't remember anything.
I heard a very strange sound coming from his throat, and I turned around and his eyes had rolled up and he stopped breathing. I didn't know what to do. So I just pushed my hand into his chest, and he breathed, but it was just getting rid of, I think, of the air that was in his lungs. So I did it again, and he breathed and then stopped again. So I ran for my mobile and dialed 999.
It was really lucky that Sue spoke to the right person, because he knew exactly what should be done, and he said do it very, very hard and keep doing it 60 times or whatever. And I think, you know, my rib was broken as well, and Sue said, I think I've broken his rib. He said, no, don't matter, you're doing it right.
It took 3 hospitals to get him right, and he was very, very poorly, but I think now he's safer than any of the rest of us now, so that's good.
With an unwavering focus and a dedicated commitment to rock and roll, Shaky's never been swayed by the prevailing musical trends. He's determined to continue playing live and recording his roots music for as long as he can.
We're having fun making the new album, and I'm very, very pleased with what we got. You know, there's some new songs on there, and there's some rootsy stuff as well, and we've tried a lot of the tracks out within the audiences, and they go down very, very well, and so yeah, I'm very, very pleased with it.
Raise your window, I got out that door. Raise your window, I got out that door. 'Cause there's a man outside, it might be your man, I don't know. If you raise your window,
I feel good about what I've done, you know, and there's certain things that maybe could have been done differently, I suppose, you know, but you can't change that, you know. The early days was one stage, Shakin'Stevens and the Sunsets were another stage. The solo artist with Epic Records was another stage, and now I'm on another stage. So moving on from the hits and so forth, and going on to the next stage of my career. There's still a lot more, I feel a lot more to give music-wise, and with a lot more substance within myself and my music.
I enjoy it, and I'll continue to do it till I can't do it anymore.